That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, y'all know we do this every single week. We're going through and looking at some real life dynasty trades. Instead of going to Twitter, instead of going to locals to ask y'all for these trades this week, I just went to our actual dynasty leagues, the dynasty leagues that I'm in, the dynasty leagues that I run, pulled the trades from there. And to be honest, this video is going to be very hard to make. A lot of these deals look dead even to me. I really need to know your opinion in the comment section. And also down in the comment section, because I didn't ask for your questions on Twitter or locals, please reply with any real dynasty trades you have made as of late. That way we can have a better overall feel of the dynasty marketplace as a community, and I'll be replying to as many of those as I can. Also, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you have not done so already, make sure you get your hands on our Dynasty research book. Over 100 pages of quality information on age cliffs with production, with value, rookie hit rates on position based on area of draft, what to do with those players early on in their respective careers, how to optimize with your league format, whether you're playing in tight end premium, super flex, how to know if you're a rebuilder or a contender, and what to do with both different pathways. There's a ton of information on there. You can get that draft guide / research book, whatever the hell you want to call it, by depositing $10 on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. When you do that through the link in the description or in the comment section, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you will also get our research book. You will get a month-long trial access of our premium content over there on locals with access to our rankings. There's a ton going on over there. Please make sure you take advantage. If you've already signed up for Underdog Fantasy or you're not 18, you can get the book on flockfantasy.com. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into this first trade. And this first one, starting off with the deal, I don't know how you're going to be looking at this. It's going to be a 12-team Superflex tight end premium league. Every single one of these teams is a 12-team Superflex tight end premium format. And here you have DK Metcalf and Jalen Hurts for Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle. One thing I will say is I like to see the stack here with Tua and Jalen Waddle, betting on that one offense, making sure that, hell, if Tua hits, you know Jalen Waddle is going to as well. So you don't really have to go out there and hit on two separate scenarios. I mean, you're condensing your bets where, yeah, you're going to have, more volatility with this, where all of a sudden if Tua suffers a season-ending injury, then you're probably done skis because your wide receiver 1 and your quarterback 2 just went down. However, if Tua goes out there as top 10 in the NFL with overall passing yards, then all of a sudden we can presume that Jalen Waddle is probably going to be a low-end wide receiver 1. So you're going to hit on receiver and quarterback at the same time. Now, if I were to look past the stack, though, and look at these players with our rankings, at the wide receiver position, I currently have Jalen Waddle ranked ahead of DK Metcalf. Now, it's difficult to have them separated by that much because obviously the Tyreek Hill trade, but I'm viewing Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver that was just more productive than DK Metcalf this past season. These are two players that are surprisingly about the same age, if we're going to be completely honest. Jalen Waddle is slightly younger, but still, I think going forward, even with Tyreek Hill in Miami, I am personally going to prefer Waddle based on what we saw this past season and the quarterback downgrade for DK Metcalf. And with Jalen Hurts first Tua Tagovailoa, give me Jalen Hurts. I think Tua is going to have the better season this upcoming year, given the weapons that he has in Miami. But we're not trying to figure out who's going to be the better quarterback with their QBR. We're not trying to figure out who's going to lead their team to more wins. We are trying to figure out who's going to score more fantasy points. In my book, that's going to be Jalen Hurts based on that rushing upside. So it's a very fair deal. I think Tua and Jalen Hurts have about the same job security going forward. I would break it down like this. If we have Philadelphia passing on all quarterbacks in the middle of the first round, which is very likely, I think there's an outside chance that Philly does decide to take Kenny Pickett with one of their first round picks, that they decide to go Matt Corral. It's very, very small, but it is in the range of outcomes. I would probably prefer the Tua Tagovailoa side today, but if we get past the NFL draft, which most likely Jalen Hurts, there's not going to be quarterback competition added in, but very similar to how we said there was an outside chance that Russell Wilson was traded, It's in the range of outcomes. I'm saying the same thing here with Jalen Hurts and the possibility that the Philadelphia Eagles go quarterback in round 1 and surprise everyone, even though it's not the expectation. I would probably lean the Tua and Waddle side today. If we get past the NFL draft, Seattle's able to grab themselves a quarterback, which should be the assumption. Philadelphia bolsters the wide receiver room by possibly taking someone like Treylon Burks with one of those first-round picks. Then all of a sudden, I think that this deal is maybe leaning with the Metcalf or Jalen Hurts. A lot of these trades are going to be so damn close. Let's pull up our next one. This next one, I think I know the side that I want. It's going to be Joe Burrow versus Carson Wentz, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, and the 111. Now, I kind of want to use this as an opportunity to dive into Michael Pittman just a little bit. Because here with Pittman, I understand that if you look at his underdog ADP, if you look at his sleeper ADP, if you look at any measure, the dynasty community is higher on Pittman today than they were just a few months ago. And it does make sense. This team does get a slight upgrade from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. However, I think people are overstating what this upgrade actually is. I understand Matt Ryan, 4 or 5 years ago, 10 tiers ahead of Carson Wentz. Not even comparable. But if we are realistically looking at the quarterback that Matt Ryan has been over the past 2 seasons now, the efficiency has fallen off a cliff. If we look at what the Indianapolis Colts paid to get Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz had a higher price from NFL general managers than Matt Ryan did. Carson Wentz fetched 2 third-round picks. He didn't have as large of a cap hit. He had a larger cap hit than Matt Ryan did at the same time. Matt Ryan went for a single third. Now, I think a lot of that just has to do with the Indianapolis Colts timing the quarterback market perfectly. I think the Colts killed it. But with that being said, the gap between Wentz and Matt Ryan for myself at this point in their respective careers is not massive. I understand a lot of people want to look at how Matt Ryan's been able to be a high volume pocket passing option that's been able to elevate weapons around him for quite a while now. But keep in mind, who has he been throwing the ball to? Julio Jones for a decade and Calvin Ridley. I will tell you this right now. If you look at the prospect profile for Michael Pittman, if you look at what Pittman's done through the first 2 years, I know his total season numbers this past year look great, but if you look at the per game numbers, it was nothing special at all. He came out of USC after 4 years. While yes, Michael Pittman's going into year 3, he's a lot older than you would actually assume. I would say Pittman's worth a late first. The 111 in this draft class, if I just pull up my ranking in the 111, that's going to get you someone like Jameson Williams, George Pickens. If we replace, say, the 111 with Jameson Williams, I probably just prefer Burrow. I don't know if I am underrating the fact that you have to start 11 players in this league. Actually, there's an outside chance this is one of the flock best ball leagues. If it's a flock best ball format, yes, still dynasty. I'm going to prefer the package of the wide receivers just because how they can cycle through. But if it's a regular dynasty league where you just submit your starting lineup every single week, I probably would rather have Burrow and then just flip Burrow for Watson. Now let's go over to our next trade. Here you actually have the 101, the 201, and a future first traded for CeeDee Lamb, the 208, and a future first. So these are owners going out there and betting on themselves saying, hey, I got a better team than you. I'm willing to swap you first when we make this deal. So I honestly just kind of want to be neutral here. Take those 2023 first round picks outside of this deal and look at it as the 101, the 201 for CeeDee Lamb, and the 208. And I'm sure y'all know where I stand on this. Breece Hall is that elite running back prospect. If Breece Hall goes in the late first round in this year's NFL draft, which I know right now he's not being mocked there, but neither was Travis Etienne. If you're looking at Breece Hall, he's a much better prospect than Najee Harris, than Travis Etienne were. I think there's an outside chance you have Breece Hall going in round 1. And if that's the case, he has a similar prospect profile to someone like Jonathan Taylor, to someone like Christian McCaffrey, to someone like, I don't want to say Barkley. Of course, Barkley's in his own tier if we're talking about prospects, but as someone like Ezekiel Elliott. Breece Hall looks like a generational cornerstone running back that should be a top 5 dynasty option right now to get that player on their rookie deal. Sign me up for some Breece Hall action. I know that probably not many people are going to agree with us. Give me the 101 and the 201 over CeeDee Lamb and the 208. Now let's go to our next deal, and this is going to be Baker Mayfield and the 104 for A.J. Brown, Chuba Hubbard. Okay, so since D'Onta Foreman signed with Carolina, Chuba Hubbard is literally done. I think that Chuba was definitely an intriguing prospect that had upside, but based on what we saw this past year with them splitting the backfield with Royce Freeman as well, and then also the addition of D'Onta Foreman, I'm just crossing Chuba Hubbard off our board. And if we're looking at Baker Mayfield in the 104 for A.J. Brown, I think it's a very fair deal. I am under the assumption Baker Mayfield will have a starting job this upcoming season. I think that you could easily see Baker going over to a team like the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, still up in the air for this moment. But if we're looking at the 104, that's most likely going to be a selection that's getting you, I mean, we know you're not getting Breece Hall. We know you're not getting Malik Willis at this point. You're going to be getting one of the elite wide receiver prospects in either Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, dependent on landing spot, or you're going to be getting Kenneth Walker. I probably would prefer just leaning with the A.J. Brown side, unless you think that you can take Baker Mayfield and you can flip Baker at some point this upcoming season for a 2023 first. Because if you think you could somehow, some way, I mean, get some magic going, you get a first round pick for Baker Mayfield, I would prefer the 104 and a first over him. But now let's go over to another quarterback that is projected to have a starting job. Let's go to Marcus Mariota, the 108 and the 208 for Dalvin Cook. Now, here, I'm just going to get out ahead of it. Give me Dalvin Cook. Now, with Marcus Mariota, I understand if he were to start for Atlanta, it's probably a very fine deal because you could take that second round pick and you could take Marcus Mariota and you could presumably say move up and get the 201. You could get the 112, the 111, and then you could walk away with, I mean, say the 108 is Chris Olave and the 111 is Jameson Williams. You get Chris Olave and Jameson Williams for Dalvin Cook. Sign me up for that. However, I am very hesitant to say that Marcus Mariota is guaranteed a starting job this upcoming season. I understand it's projected currently that Mariota should be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons, and that's what the coaching staff is saying. Of course, that's what they're going to say. They just went out there and got him. What are they supposed to say? Oh, no, we got Marcus Mariota, but I don't really like the guy. He's not an NFL starting quarterback. You really think we're going to start Marcus Mariota for 17 games this upcoming season? Is that what they're supposed to say? No, of course, they're never going to tell us that. I think there's still that outside chance that they hit the NFL draft, that they decide, hell, you know what? Let's just take Kenny Pickett here. Let's take a third round pick and go trade it for Baker Mayfield and kind of turn this into a quarterback competition. I think it's not out of the range of outcomes for Marcus Mariota to start 4 games this upcoming season, and you can't really start him in fantasy either. And then we really just never see him again, and you lost out on all value. So I'm honestly just going to take Dalvin here. Now, our next deal, though, is going to be Javonte Williams for Drew Lock, Miles Sanders, the 205, and a 2023 first. And this is a very similar deal if we break it down from the quarterback standpoint, in that, yes, I understand Drew Lock looks like he's going to be a starting quarterback this upcoming season. But in reality, if we sit here and think about it, go, okay, well, if Drew Lock is a starting quarterback for Seattle, which I am uncertain is going to happen as of now, they can get Jimmy G, go out there and get Baker, because I would imagine they get Baker since he's not in the same division. But let's say Drew Lock even dodges the bullets of these leftover starting quarterbacks that are looking for jobs. Let's say he dodges the NFL draft and the Seattle Seahawks all of a sudden don't take Malik Willis with pick 9. Can we reasonably ever start Drew Lock in fantasy? He's never been startable before. It's not like he's been put in a bad situation before. He's been put behind a good offensive line. He's been given Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, Albert O to make things happen with. And he wasn't close to being startable then. I don't necessarily see what has changed. So I'm personally going to be viewing Drew Lock as a player that's worth probably about a 3rd round pick. And if we just remove him from the deal entirely, we're looking at Javonte Williams for Miles Sanders, a future first, and the 205. And if we're looking at what the 205 is right now, it's going to be someone like David Bell or Sky Moore. Now, I think before the Russell Wilson trade, this would have been a fine price point for Javonte Williams. But post-Wilson trade, where now it looks like Denver is projected to be a top 10 offense at the minimum this upcoming season, I honestly have to go Javonte here. I mean, Javonte, the youngest running back in last year's draft class, someone who profiled to be a 3-down guy, very efficient on a per-touch basis. Of course, we have to be worried about Melvin Gordon If Melvin Gordon goes back to Denver, then all of a sudden I think that is a little bit of a different story. But as it stands, give me Javonte Williams. But all these deals are relatively fair. Getting to our next one, this one I'm not really going to be thinking about too much. Send Nick Chubb, the 101, the 401. 401 literally has no value. We just toss it out. So Nick Chubb in the 101. So Nick Chubb and Breece Hall, or Deontay Johnson, Cole Kmet, and Justin Fields. Now, I will say, if you go and look at some of the recent startup drafts I have done, I've taken Justin Fields in a couple of these. And I feel like a fraud too, because I'm drafting with everybody a part of the flock community. And I'm in the middle of the 4th round of a startup. And I'm going, well, yeah, I made fun of people relentlessly last year for taking Justin Fields in the 2nd round. I've talked about Justin Fields being the most overrated player in Dynasty when he's going in the 2nd, 3rd round of these Dynasty startup drafts. He's fallen to me in the middle of the 4th. I kind of have to take him. So I have actually gotten Justin Fields on a couple of my teams so far this offseason, but it's because his value's fallen so far. Now, if we're looking at Justin Fields versus the 101, easily give me Breece Hall. Not even remotely close, to be completely honest. And here, I would even say I'd prefer Breece Hall over Justin Fields and Cole Kmet. I do like Kmet, however, because if you were looking at the Chicago Bears offense, they have nobody at all. I don't see how Cole Kmet doesn't go out there and finish 2nd in the team in target share. He's going in year 3. He's still an extremely young tight end. I mean, he's been impressive through the first 2 years of his NFL career so far, considering the historical trend that we have on tight ends just not producing at all. So hell, I really like the idea of going and trading for Cole Kmet. I just don't like the price point, because if I say I prefer Breece Hall over Justin Fields and Kmet, and then I'm looking at Nick Chubb versus Deontay Johnson, I understand with the addition of Deshaun Watson, this Cleveland Browns offense probably going to be looking to skew a lot more pass happy than they previously were. I think the run to pass ratio is going to be completely thrown off, switching from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson. But at the same time, with how opposing defensive coordinators are going to have to react to the threat of Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb can easily lead the NFL in efficiency at the running back position this upcoming season. This is already an elite offensive line. Y'all know I've never been a fan of Nick Chubb with his dynasty value, except his rookie season. I mean, if Nick Chubb, very similar to Justin Fields last offseason, we're saying he was one of the most overdrafted players in Dynasty when he was going in the 2nd round. I've always had to put the little asterisk. Nick Chubb, you can make the argument he's the most talented running back in the NFL, but he's the most talented committee running back in the NFL. Like, I've been that Nick Chubb hater. But at this point, you're looking at him behind an elite offensive line with a massive upgrade with the entire overall offense, with the trips to the red zone that they are going to have as well. Nothing has changed from his situation last year. Give me Nick Chubb over Deontay Johnson. So I'm going to prefer Nick Chubb and the 101 there over Deontay, Justin Fields, and Cole Kmet. And now going over to our next deal, J.D. Mckissick and Gerald Everett. I want to give this person the benefit of the doubt. I think maybe this trade was done after Mckissick announced that he was going to Buffalo. Honestly, I don't think this trade would be any different for me. However, I mean, if we're looking at that rookie pick 202, you're going to be getting someone like George Pickens, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell at that selection. Those are pieces that, I mean, have it in the range of outcomes to be top 50 dynasty picks in startups next year. They have it in the range of outcomes to all of a sudden be a cornerstone player for you. Where J.D. McKissick, Gerald, literally can never be that. So I hate the idea of going out there and trading for those players like Gerald Everett, J.D. McKissick at this point in the offseason. I just see no reason to. Now, our next trade we are going to be looking at is going to be Joe Mixon, David Njoku, and Tua Tagovailoa for Jarvis Landry, Dak Prescott, and Damien Harris. So very interesting here. We're looking at another trade with Tua. Let's break this down piece by piece. I'm going to prefer a David Njoku personally over Jarvis Landry. I understand, obviously, Jarvis has been hyper-productive over the past 3 seasons, but Jarvis now getting to that age where I think that really it's hard for him to ever improve on his dynasty value with where it currently stands. Don't even know the landing spot for Jarvis Landry, even though it's funny that now it looks like the best landing spot possible would be Cleveland. Probably ends up going somewhere like Atlanta. But if we're looking at Joe Mixon and Tua versus Dak Prescott and Damien Harris, this is a very interesting swap. I would love to know your opinion on this Because personally, I can't give an answer. I mean, Damien Harris is the player I've just been off of for a very long time, given the fact that in a PPR format, he simply does not have access to an elite ceiling when he can't average more than a target a game. Like, you have to average at least more than a target a game unless you're going to be Derrick Henry, and even Derrick Henry will have more involvement in the receiving game than that. We're looking at Mixon. This is a player that obviously is running behind a vastly improved offensive line. He's surprisingly young compared to Damien Harris, despite being drafted 2 years before him. We're looking at Tua versus Dak Prescott. However, Dak is that cornerstone quarterback that I believe we can continue to build around for the next 5-6 years. It's a very interesting trade. I probably would lean with Dak, but I'm not sure about that at all. Now, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. I apologize if we were unable to get to your trade. I promise you we'll be doing more of these. Make sure you leave your trade in the comment section. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy if you want to go out there. And if you want to get our Dynasty Research book, hop into drafts with us, get our rankings, and get your first deposit match dollar for dollar up to 100. I know it seems crazy. It is crazy, but it's true. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope you have a great day.